Good morning. It's a rainy day. We're supposed to reset a paver walkway out front today, but with the rain we're not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to do a quick video on how to change out a kitchen faucet. It's really not a job that's very difficult. Anyone who wants to be a do-it-yourselfer should be able to accomplish this without much difficulty. So we're going to go through step by step. First step is you should make sure that the main water valve for the house is shut off, where the water comes into the house. So we're going to take a quick walk down the basement and find that, and I'll show you how you do it. Okay, here we are in the basement. As you can see, this is the water meter. The water comes into the house. There's a gate valve, very old. Then you got the water meter, then it comes up to another gate valve for connecting a hose, and then this is where it feeds the home. And there's a ball valve here. This is a much better valve. It doesn't get corroded as easy as this, and it lasts much longer. You want to turn it slowly so it is perpendicular to the pipe. When it's perpendicular to the pipe, it's off. When it's parallel to the pipe, the water's flowing. Now we'll go back upstairs to the kitchen sink. What we're going to do now is we'll turn this on and we'll let the water stop on its own. So as you see, we do that, hot and cold both. Nothing's coming out. So now we know that the water is definitely off. It's not leaking by. And if there was a second floor, like I said, you'd want to open the faucet up there, because just like when you hold your finger over a straw in a drink and then you release your finger, the fluid or the soda or the lemonade or iced tea or whatever you have will come rushing out of the straw. But if you hold your finger over it, it'll hold it in the straw. Well, it's the same principle with plumbing in the home. So you open the valve up above. It's like taking your finger off the straw. Any water in the pipes from here to the second floor will drain out of this faucet. You want to do that because once you take the plumbing apart underneath, you don't want to get soaked. Now you can do one of two things first. You can disconnect the feed lines, supply lines to the faucet, or you can try to loosen the faucet first. Sometimes when you take the supply lines off, they're full of water. So you should have a few rags, towel type rags, so you can dry it up real quick. It's not going to be a lot of water, you know, maybe a quarter of a cup, whatever that little line holds. I like to leave them on until after I start loosening things up. In case I run into a problem where I can't get something loose, I don't have to worry about this dangling supply line with water dripping out of it maybe. So I just leave it to the end. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to lay you on your back here on the camera. You can see, and up underneath of here, you're going to notice this particular type of faucet has what looks like molly bolts. It's the gold pieces that go across. All you need to do is loosen this nut that is on each one of them. I hope you can see this and my arm's not in your way. Loosen the nuts and you should be able to pretty much spin them off by hand. Anytime I do a job, I'll save these nuts and I'll save the little pieces that come off this old faucet, because you never know when you're going to be at another customer's house and they're going to have a problem with their faucet and it's going to be rusty or something. So you'll need to rechange it, and instead of having to run to the store and grab a part, you can just go to your tool bag, and which is another good tip. I save all kind of little sour cream containers. I save cream cheese containers, butter containers, everything that has a snap-shut lid, and I'll put little components like this in it and label it sink parts, something of that nature. Alright, so it's also a good idea to shut the under the sink supply valves off. If for some reason the main valve was dripping by, this could help you. I never change a sink a faucet or a sink or toilet or anything trusting just this valve. Most of the time they'll leak a little bit. If they do, there's a packing nut right behind the valve, the handle. Just tighten that, and usually when you tighten that, it will stop the drip. Still probably need to replace it at some point, but it'll get you by in a pinch. Alright, I hope you can see this. So this is the sprayer. This is the line coming from the faucet. Goes into this contraption and then the sprayer. It has, this particular Moen faucet has a button right here. If you squeeze that button in, it should separate the two. Just like that. It'll pop right out. Sometimes it's a little difficult to push. And like I said, there's going to be some water. As you can see, this sprayer has water in it. Not a lot, but enough to where you should have a towel and dry up underneath your sink. Then you can pull the sprayer out. This is held on by a nut underneath. There's a nut right here. Just loosen that nut. And then it'll come right out. You see it's threaded. So this goes through the sink. This screws on from underneath the sink until it pinches against the sink and holds itself in place. Just like that. You don't use a wrench on it, it's just plastic. You just make it nice and tight so it sits like that. Now you see the faucet is all loose already because we took those two nuts off underneath. The only thing holding that faucet in now is the supply lines. As you can see, the supply lines are connected to the valves here and here. Just use an adjustable wrench. You don't need anything fancy. And like I said, there's going to be water come out of it. And this water is just what's left in the supply line. There's nothing more. See, it'll drip a little bit, and that's the end of it. And take the other supply line off. Sometimes these supply lines are screwed onto the bottom of your faucet, and they're reusable. Now, this Moen faucet, they're hardwired manufactured in, so they just go with the faucet. So if you're scrapping the faucet, if it's brass, don't throw it away. Take it to your metal yard, throw it in a 5-gallon bucket till you have a bunch of them, whatever you do with it, and scrap it. It's worth some money. It's a yellow metal. Magnets don't stick to it. Probably worth $1 or $2 a pound, depending on the year and what's going on. And then you just pull it out. Now, you always want to clean up underneath where the faucet was. See how dirty that is? You always want to clean that up for the customer. Bring it back down to a nice shiny sink again. You don't know where the other faucet's going to sit exactly, and you don't want it to show any of this. Now I'll show you how to put the new faucet in. First thing you want to do is inspect the faucet. You want to make sure you got all your parts. Now this is also a Moen faucet, and very similar to the one we took out. In fact, it's the exact same faucet. See, this has a plastic plate. The other one didn't have it. Whoever installed that last faucet didn't do it right. This plate should have been put on there. Anyway, you got your two supply lines. One of them is labeled hot side, and then you have your sprayer. And put them all down the hole, same way you took them out. And make sure you got your new sprayer, which we do. Sprayer body goes in that hole. The nuts for underneath. And then this is important. Most of them will come with a little sticker telling you what model number you have for the faucet. Stick this inside the door. Oh look, they already have one here. We're just going to stick it over the one that they had. This way, when you want a part for it, if you have to call Moen or Kohler or whoever you're using, or even Price per Pfister, they all have it. They'll have these. You'll be able to know exactly what model number you have so you can order the right replacement part. We'll do this right now so we don't forget it. Then we're going to drop our sprayer body in. Again, take the rosette off. Stick it down the hole. No silicone, nothing like that. Do the same thing in reverse. Put the rosette or the nut, whatever you want to call it, at the bottom. Spin it up in. Hand tight. Don't use a wrench. This has a little washer on it, underneath it here. You just want the nut to squeeze that washer tight against the top of your sink. That just prevents water from getting underneath of here should it get wet and dripping underneath. And like I said, hand tight. Doesn't turn, it's not loose. That's all you want. Now to put the faucet back together. And we're going to kind of do the same thing in reverse. With it being the same faucet, makes it a little even easier. I kind of wish it was a different faucet so you would see the different types of faucets that they have and how they do it, but these go on with the open area facing down because this stem will fit into it. You want this flush against the top. Now this is easier with two people. You also have this little tube that has to go on after this does, and then the nut. So it's actually kind of easier to have two people doing this than trying to do it yourself, but it can be done. You put that on. You put that on, and it does help to hold the threading from the other side, or hold on to this just to keep it down. And you want to get that nut on there. You hold on the other side of it, you can keep it pretty much where you want it. Now don't tighten it real tight. Just snug it so it doesn't move, because you have to adjust it up above before you're all said and done. You got to make sure that it's lined up with the sink where you want it. Same thing on the other side. Put the flat piece on. Put the cylinder piece on, and then tighten your nut down. Again, only hand tight. You don't want it super tight at this point. And make sure it's centered. See how it's not centered? We want to make sure that the whole faucet appears centered on the sink with the right distance between here and here. That looks right. Now we can tighten it. Now to tighten it, just take this tool and flip the head over. You can fit it right up on there. And tighten it down. Do both sides. Don't tighten one side all the way and then go to the other side. Tighten one side so much, a little bit, and then tighten the other side. And then go back. And it only has to be tight enough for the faucet to not move. You don't have to crank it. You don't want to crack anything. It's nice and tight. Doesn't move. Drop the sprayer down. I know this has nothing to do with plumbing, but these glasses I bought online from some online glass retailer. If you just search for magnetic glasses, you can order the prescription you need. They're great. You can pull them up so you can see, and when they're in your way, you can just pull them away. It's a fantastic invention. So as you can see, it's even the same sprayer. It's the exact same model that was installed once before. That tells me it's either a very popular model or something that is fairly new. Now you see how that is stiff and the other one was not? Some people attempted to put the old one back in, especially if they match, to avoid this. All you have to do is, when the faucet is all installed, is run hot water through the sprayer. It'll loosen this up. Feed that right down the hole. Now when you do this, you want to make sure of something else too. You want to make sure that it's not wrapped around any pipes down here. If there was water pipes coming this way, you wouldn't want it wrapped around or tangled on valves. Okay? To hook this up, you push it in. Done. That's all it takes. There's nothing more to it. Now, doesn't mean it's this way, but the rule is hot to the left, cold to the right. This should always be the hot line, this should be the cold line. I know that to be true because the dishwasher's over here and that uses only hot water. So this is the hot line going to the dishwasher. You should check it probably before you take it apart to make sure, but you can usually tell by looking at it. So these are compression fittings. They have their own rubber gasket inside. You don't need Teflon tape with this, okay? You do want to make sure that they're on the proper sides of the plumbing, and all you have to do is thread it in. If you end up with this big extra amount, you can loop it and put it in so that the loop stays to the back or something, whatever you want to do. You don't need Teflon tape though. Put that on. And you put this one on. And tighten them down. Now, it's a good idea to not turn these valves under the sink back on until you turn the main water line back on. And the reason I say that to you is because you're down in the basement turning the water line on, you got a major leak that's occurring, you don't find out till you get back upstairs. So you're better off leaving these off until you get up here and can turn them on and inspect it as you're going. The one thing you don't want to do is turn the water on quickly. If you do, something happens. It's called a water hammer. Water rushes into the pipe because it's now drained, and it causes the pipe to jump or bang. When that happens, it could break soldering joints or connections along the way. When you turn the water back on, you want to turn it on slow. Give it a little bit. You hear it start flowing? Let it flow. A little more. If you hear water rushing still, that's fine. Nice and slow as the pipe refills itself. And then, like I said, parallel to the pipe, the water's flowing. Alright, we're back under the sink. We just turned the water on. So we're going to open our valves and inspect for drips. I don't see any. It's a good sign. Nothing, nice and dry. Let's test our faucet. When you turn this on, there's going to be air in the line. So you're going to hear some popping at first, possibly. Like that, air coming out. See the air? Every time you see the water jump, that's air. It's also a water hammer. And let's do the hot as well. Now this water is going to come out, I don't know if you saw it, but for a second there it was a little gray. Sometimes when water sits in the pipe for a few minutes, that's what happens. Now I told you we turn this to hot. See if we get some hot water over here. Taking a few minutes. There it goes, she's getting hot. So let's look at the hose now. Now let's run some hot water through it. Now it's really pliable. Now it's still going to be coiled up, but you see how it's stretched out for me real easy? Check once more. No drips. Everything's dry. Make sure we got all the water from before cleaned up. Nothing on anything. Just like that. Now that's how you change a kitchen faucet. Bathroom faucets are very similar. They don't always have the same connections underneath. Sometimes that little rosette that you use for the sprayer body is what they have on the faucet. Those are easy too. They're plastic. Sometimes the little tabs break off. When that happens, it's not as easy. Sometimes if you have somebody at the top wiggling the faucet slightly while you're trying to loosen the rosette at the bottom, whether it has a broken tab or not, sometimes that helps to get it off. So if you come across a faucet and you can't get the rosette off, the plastic piece, the plastic nut, have somebody at the top just wiggle the faucet slightly back and forth. Sometimes that's all it takes just to get it started. Once you get it started, it ain't going to be that difficult for you. And if you have to use your own lines because they're not built in like this one, that's fine. Don't use any Teflon tape. Screw them right onto the body of the faucet and screw them right onto your valve. No Teflon tape ever with these braided lines. Have a great day. Hope this helped you out.